Back at it, back in it. UFC Fight Night going down in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Headlined by the big boy Israel Adesanya. Sneaky little card. Feel like it's gone under the radar. Hello, my name is Bradley Gleason. This is Today in Combat, and we're going to talk about a multitude of things on this fine evening because we haven't spoken in a while. It's been 2 weeks. We didn't have a UFC card last week, so we took the week off. I was being lazy. I'll be honest with you. That's on me. But regardless, we're going to go through a bunch of different stuff. Of course, the Fight Night card from this weekend. I'll briefly run through kind of post UFC 311 talk. We're not going to spend too much time on it. I feel like that's old news. Congratulations to Islam Makhachev, Merab Dvalishvili. I just, for whatever reason, I was saying Islam and I was like, that's not his name, is it? But it is. Islam Makhachev, Merab Dvalishvili, both getting the victory. Last time I talked to you, I didn't even know we were going to be talking about Islam fighting Renato Moicano. It was still Arman Tsarukyan. So wild times in UFC 311. We also had a variety of outside of UFC cards this past weekend because there was no UFC. BKFC in Philadelphia, that seemed to be an amazing event. I partially watched it. I watched the main event, Eddie Alvarez and Jeremy Stevens. I saw the big knockout by Jeremy, not big knockout. There was a ton of big knockouts in the card, but that fight in particular ended kind of unceremoniously with Eddie Alvarez. Apparently he broke his jaw, but he did kind of just quit on the stool in between rounds. But regardless, BKFC on the rise. Super impressed with they got going on. 18,000 seats, Wells Fargo Arena, and the place was ruckus. So shout out to them. They seem to be doing something right. We also have PFL. Speaking of people doing something right, PFL. Paul Hughes, Usman Nurmagomedov. I didn't watch any other card. I don't know how the rest of the card went. I don't give a fuck. That fight was fan-fucking-tastic. Just ultra competitive fight back and forth the entire time. There were some nut kicks, there were some headbutts, but overall it was just a super competitive fight. And Paul Hughes, the Irishman, who I got a little, I'm an Irish boy. You see that? I know they're not on great terms right now, Mr. Conor McGregor and Paul Hughes, but in the back of my soul, I'm always rooting for the Irish fella. So did not come out with the victory, but I thought he looked fantastic. Had some nasty switches late in the rounds. Honestly, the headbutt, I think, kind of saved Usman Nurmagomedov. I think it saved him because it gave him a time, I believe it was in the fourth, to recover when he was exhausted. So incredible fight. Hopefully that one's going to come back around. I'd love to see that fight again, but really kind of put Paul Hughes on the map. I saw him getting a ton of love this week from a lot of people that don't necessarily, consume a lot of PFL. Like most of us, we like the UFC. That's kind of what we stick to, just like I like the NFL or the NBA. I'm not watching the G League. And that was disrespectful of me to say that about PFL, but it's the truth. That was a fantastic fight, fantastic buzz, great build-up. They did a great job, so shouts out to PFL. I thought that was really good. Also, just before I forget, let's back it up a little bit because we got to give some love to Cody. Cody and the bets. Let's take you back to 311. Did get hurt. He got hurt a little bit by some changing of the cards. Of course, Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan did not fight. Of course, Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush did not fight. But the big chunks, the fights, he put 2 bets on a piece for Merab Dvalishvili plus 240 money line and over 4.5 rounds. Cash that. Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill, Yuri plus 110 money line, Yuri plus 190 by a KO. Cash that. The only one we missed, or he missed, I should say, Kevin Holland, Rainier Day Ritter. We had over 1.5 rounds. I'm going to blame that on Kevin Holland. I'm not going to blame that on Cody. I'm going to blame that on Kevin Holland. Got taken down, got submitted so fucking fast. Really didn't put up a fight. That's on you, Mr. Holland. So we're going to call that a scratch. Not real. But fantastic job by Cody picking out the bets. I was with him on every single one except for Yuri. So that's why you listen to the pros. That's why I don't bet. I don't know shit, boy. Yuri looked fantastic. A very fun fight. Movement was great. I thought Jamal looked his footwork looked a little off. But great job by Yuri. Who knows what you do with the guy next? I don't know if anybody knows what you do with a guy like Yuri Prochazka next, but always excited to see him fight again. Shout out to Cody on the bets. But let's talk about this week. It's a new week. We got new fights. It's a new time. And it is headlined by the one, the only, Israel Adesanya facing off against nassiderne Imavov. Interesting fight. Interesting fight. I remember when this first came out, I was a little bit like, and it's not Nassardine's fault, but he just doesn't have the name value that I thought Izzy would have got with like a Caio Bahaio. He deserves to be in this position. He's on a nice win streak. I think a 3 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He took out Brendan Allen. Sorry, let me get back to my thing. Yeah, there it is. He took out Brendan Allen, Jared Cannonier, Roman Dolidze, had a no contest with Chris Curtis, and then lost back in January of 2023 to Sean Strickland. So earned it. He's fought very good guys in this division. He should be right there, but it just doesn't carry that name value. When you hear nassiderne Imavov, you don't think of really much of anything. So hoping one of two things happens. First of all, Nasruddin gets elevated to that next level with a win over a guy like Israel Adesanya, who a ton of eyes are going to be on. This being a fight night, no pay-per-view. I think we're going to have a lot of people watching, although it is an early card. I think it starts at 9. So we'll be midday Saturday. Main card starts at 2. Keep that in mind. But it feels like a launching pad. Feels like a launching pad for nassiderne Imavov if he can get by a guy like Israel Adesanya, who is on a tiny bit of a skid. That being said, his losses were to Sean Strickland, former champ, Dricus Duplessis, current champ. So it also kind of feels like a get-right fight for Izzy. Nasruddin doesn't have that huge name. He's had very good fights, has never really looked ultra-dominant. Looked good in the Brendan Allen fight, got taken down in the first, got held, worked his way out of there, and then kind of dominated the last 2. Jared Cannonier was a very back and forth until he eventually got the stoppage. It was a controversial knockout. Jared was still kind of moving around on his feet when judges stopped it, but regardless, cracked him. Jared was definitely 100% on his way out. Just needed the finishing touch. Won a majority decision against Roman Dolidze, and then that loss to Sean Strickland, the last loss, which was, again, it was a Sean Strickland-esque fight. It was very back and forth. Sean won the decision unanimously, but it wasn't, he didn't fully outclass Nasruddin. It was a very competitive fight. Some things that I've seen out of Nasruddin, just kind of studying the tape over the last couple of days, is first of all, I don't expect any wrestling to happen in this fight. Unless one of these guys get crazy, they are both there to stand, strike, and bang. But Nasruddin's fast. He hits hard. He doesn't have a ton of KOs as of recent. In his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he's got 1, and that was against Jared Cannonier. Again, controversial, the stoppage on at least where it happened. But even through the later rounds, he holds some fast power. It's not the most accurate. I think that is where Izzy has the advantage, is controlling of space and then making it his fight, fighting at his pace, fighting at his distance. If he can do that to Nasruddin, I don't see, outside of a knockout, because again, he does hit hard and he holds that power. Outside of a knockout, I can't see Nasruddin winning a decision. And that's kind of how it's been with Israel Adesanya anyways. If you're going to beat him, you got to finish him. I mean, you think back to the Alex Pereira fight that he lost. He won 4 out of, maybe not 4, but he was winning the decision up until Alex stopped him. If you look back at the Dricus Duplessis fight, he was on the judges' scorecard winning the decision until Dricus Duplessis stopped him. It's like Izzy's very good at doing enough each round to make sure that he's winning that round. He doesn't often leave opportunity for decision wins. He's just too good of a striker. He's got too good of range. He's too fast. He's too accurate, where he's going to be landing. He'll be landing throughout those rounds. So if Nasruddin's going to win, in my opinion, I think he's got to get the finish. I think Izzy can do it whatever way he wants, whether it's a knockout and or to a decision. Obviously, I don't expect any sort of submission or grappling, but Izzy is saying he's been trying to go for a submission before his UFC career is over. I don't know if Nasruddin is exactly the guy for it. He's not the best wrestler. We saw Brendan Allen take him down and hold him in position for an entire round, but his top game is nasty. He did a couple times on failed shots by Brendan Allen get on top position, and he was fucking cold there. So I don't know if Nasruddin is the guy, is basically what I'm saying. But super interesting fight. Super interesting fight. They're both big strikers. Nasruddin's 6'3", I believe Izzy's 6'4". So you're not going to see that big height advantage that Izzy carries a lot of the time. I think it should be a really good striking battle. The fun one on this card, we know what it is. Shara Bullet, MVP Michael Venom Page. This should be fireworks. Could not be fireworks, but it should be fireworks. Just these two guys are the most unorthodox strikers the UFC has to offer. I think Michael Venom Page's style is so frustrating for a lot of fighters. You saw it with the Ian Gary fight. You saw it with the Kevin Holland fight. Like, standing with Michael Venom Page fucking sucks. It's just his style. He's got that point karate style where he's definitely not in boxing range, hardly even in kicking range. He kind of stands right on the outside of that and then jumps into shots. But he's a dynamic striker. Elbows, he's fast. The one thing that I'll give to Shara Bullet, first of all, Michael Venom Page is fighting a weight class up. A weight class up than he normally is, 170 compared to 185. I think Shara is going to be the more powerful guy. He's also the more hittable guy in a traditional kind of boxing sense. Shara Bullet's a weird kind of character because he's such a star just by his look. What Shara Bullet is the pirate. He's missing a fucking eye. He's a ginger Muslim. Like, he's such a unique character that the aura around him is a little bit higher than maybe his performances show. Like, we've seen Shara Bullet in fights get hurt, be in bad situations, lose rounds, get outstruck. We've seen that in Shara Bullet fights. He always does find a way to win, but he kind of reminds me of like a Paddy Pimblett, where every fight he's in, although he wins, there's a point in the fight where you're like, oh fuck, he might lose this fight. Like, every time he fights, he is very much Paddy Pimblett to me. But then when Paddy Pimblett did finally get that kind of next level step, everybody was doubting him coming off of his previous fights with who I'm talking about, the one that he partially, coulda, shoulda lost, Jared something or another. People are doubting him. Then he gets Bobby Green. You're like, oh, too high, too fast. This guy's fucked. He showed up. He sub Bobby Green, put him to fucking sleep. And I don't know if he actually did break his arm, but was pretty damn close if he didn't. That kind of feels like the spot that Shara Bullet's in right now, where Michael Venom Page is not a top echelon, middleweight. He's not even a middleweight, but true in the same sense with welterweight. He's not like a top 5 welterweight. He is kind of the back end of the welterweight class, just like a Bobby Green is at 155. Shara Bullet's stepping into that. I feel like this could be that Bobby Green moment for him, where I'm actually not going to say that people are doubting him. I think he's got such a look, such a star power that people are maybe even overlooking MVP. But if you actually watch the tape and you know the fight, MVP is a better striker, a more skilled striker when we're just looking at hit and not get hit. Shara Bullet is a harder puncher. I think he's going to be faster. I think he's maybe a little bit more durable, just because he's got, going to be a little bit more durable in the fight, just because Michael Venom Page is coming up a weight class. I don't think he carries that same power. We didn't see him really hurt Kevin Holland. We didn't see him really hurt Ian Gary. I can't imagine he's going to hurt Shara Bullet, but he could. It's such a unique striking battle. It's such a weird fight that really I think anything could happen. But it does kind of feel like this is a show up or shut up type of moment for Shara Bullet. MVP, I think you can just shove him into fun fights. That's where I see him at right now. He is a fun fighter. You shove him into fun fights. Who gives a shit? You know? He's an older guy, 35, whatever he is. I don't need him climbing his way to a title picture and taking like boring fights up there. You know, he can fight whoever, anytime, anywhere. It should be somewhat exciting. That being said, on the flip side, you know, we look at some of... I was pretty critical of MVP post Kevin Holland. And maybe that was just my affinity for Kevin Holland and kind of being upset that he lost that fight. But there is a part of MVP that doesn't always necessarily, although his style's very fun, he's a showman in the fight. The stats of the fight don't always reflect. Let me pull up this real quick. The stats of the fight don't always reflect a fucking banger. You know, like we look at the Kevin Holland and Michael Venom Page round by round, 59 total strikes through 3 rounds. Like that's not a super high output. We go to, you know, same fight card, Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint Denis. This is in a 2-round, 2.5 rounds. Benoit had 69 strikes. So, and, you know, Sean O'Malley, Cheeto Vera, of course, 232 strikes. Cheeto Vera, who barely fucking got off against Sean O'Malley. Again, 5 rounds doesn't count. But you get my point. His output's not always the highest. His output is not always the highest, which is why we're kind of hoping, and I kind of need Shara Bullet to take action in this fight to push the pace on Michael Venom Page, because if you fight at Michael Venom Page's pace, we could just see a lot of dudes staring at each other, a lot of time just with not much going on, dancing. But I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think Shara is going to push the pace. I think these guys are going to get into range and start banging. Love that fight. Who else is on this card? Anybody fun that we should talk about? Anybody fun? Sergey Pavlovich versus Biggie Boys on this card. Let me pull up the fucking card first. I will say this card has kind of been sneaky quiet. It's an Israel Adesanya card, one of the biggest stars in the UFC. It is a fight night, so there's no press conference. It's kind of flown under the radar. Also, with there being no UFC last week, 311 being such kind of a smash hit with such big fights on it, such wild results. I think this card is just kind of flying under the radar. It is a fantastic card. Like I said, Sergey Pavlovich, Jairzinho Rosenstruck should be a killer be killed fight. Biggie Boys on a 2-fight win streak. Sergey has struggled as of late, lost to Tom Aspinall, lost to Alexander Volkov, but always viable for a knockout. I think we're going to get a knockout in this fight. Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Said Nurmagomedov family is working. They are on their freaking bike pre-Ramadan. What is Said's relation? I actually don't know what Said's relation is to Khabib, or is there one? Or is Nurmagomedov kind of like Patel? Is that just like a big name in that region? With Khabib. Let's learn. Despite the confusion arising from their shared surname and common Dagestani roots, Said Nurmagomedov, not related. Okay, not related. But good for him. He gets to carry that relation. If I were him, I would just be telling people I am. He's fighting Vinicius Oliveira. I like Vinicius. He's a fun little striker. He's had some nasty knockouts in the UFC, and he's also like got a very old and young face at the same time, which is, you know, fun. I don't know. He's got a touch of Benjamin Buttons, I believe. 29 years old. Looks like he could be 60 or 17, which I like about him. So that's fun. Let's see. Faris Zaim, he's coming off of a big knockout of Matt Frivola, if I'm not mistaken. That should have been his last fight. Could be wrong, but a nasty knee. Was that Faris? I mix him and one other guy up, so maybe I'm tweaking on that. But I don't think I am. French boy, yeah. Yeah, it's him. My internet's tweaking. Doesn't matter. He's fighting Mike Davis. Should be a banger. Terrence McKinney's on this card. Jasmine Jasudavicius, Myra Buena Silva. This actually is a pretty big fight for the women's flyweight division. Jasudavicius ranked 12. Myra Buena Silva coming off of a title fight, a weight class up against Raquel Pennington, which of course she lost. I think it was doctor stoppage, actually. She got a nasty cut in that fight. You're really fucking me here, man. Because I'm second guessing myself. Did Myra Buena Silva fight somebody in between, or was the cut in the Raquel Pennington fight? My Wi-Fi's tweaking. Yeah, had to have been. Now it's a 5th round decision. The cut was a fight before. No, it was a fight after. Macy Chiasson. Nasty cut, stopped her. So she's lost 2 in a row. Dropped from bantamweight to flyweight. And let's see what she can do. She's running into tough opposition in Jasmine Jasudavicius, who has been on a nice little streak as of recent. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah, that's really it. UFC 312. A fun card. I love the top 3. And then you kind of just get into low-key bangers like the Seed Vinicius, like the Zaim and Mike Davis fight. Terrence McKinney. There's going to be a knockout or knocked out in that fight. We know that that's what happens with Terrence. So fun card, especially when we got 312, which is, we'll talk about it next week, but kind of dicey. Top 2 fights are very good. After that, it really kind of falls off a cliff. This should be a good one. And I always love an Israel Adesanya fight week. I mean, I love me some Izzy. I know he's had a couple tough fights in a row, but he looked good against Dricus 2+E. Let's not make a mistake. I said it earlier. He was winning that fight until he wasn't. And the judges agreed with that. Like, on paper, he was winning that fight. It was a very competitive fight. It was a good fight. Both men had their moments, but he was landing some fucking nasty body shots. I hope he brings that back. The way he was digging at Dricus's body was disgusting. And he's in a big spot right now. He's in a really big spot where if he loses to Nassiderne, the rung just keeps dropping. You lose 3 straight. Now who do you fight? I think Izzy can fight for however long he wants against whoever he wants. I think he's going to be holding down the top of this middleweight division for as long as he wants. But it's a big spot for both men. Nassiderne with a win is going to shoot up the rankings, shoot up his profile. Part of me still kind of feels like he's going to get the Bilal Muhammad treatment where he's going to have to again and again and again fight. It does also seem like we have we have Khamzat Chimaev sitting there, so it seems like we have a next for the title. I wouldn't call this a number 1 title contender fight by any means, but I don't know. Something about Nasruddine's face and his profile and how little the UFC has really pushed him, or he's been able to push himself, gives me the feeling that they're not jacked up to throw him into a title fight, as of now at least. But Israel Adesanya, on the other hand, if he can get like a win here, then he gets the loser of DDP and Sean Strickland, gets one of those back. I'm sure he wants those. He's got losses to both those guys. I'm sure he wants those. A rematch with DDP, I would love. Even more so, I would love not a rematch, a fresh fight with Khamzat Chimaev. That would be fantastic. So, fun fight card. Saudi Arabia starts early. Don't forget that. We also have a couple fight announcements. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev finally announced. That's going down UFC 313 in Vegas, I believe. And I did also see it's not on the UFC site, but I did also see a Mauricio Rufy versus Bobby Green. Apparently that's not officially announced by the UFC, but I saw it on Full Violence and then saw it not reciprocated, but the Fighting Nerds coach commented on it with some fire emojis. So, I mean, he probably knows a couple things more. Maybe they're just waiting for the UFC to officially announce that. But fantastic. I love that fight. But let's take it back to Ankalaev Magomedov. Not Ankalaev Magomedov. That's just the most, I just threw two Russian names together and just called it. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. The fight we were waiting for, to be honest. This felt like the natural progression. This felt like the right fight to make. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. We're also getting Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker on this card. We're getting Bruno Silva, Josh Vann. Again, I told you, I think we're getting Mauricio Rufy versus Bobby Green, which should be fantastic. So yeah, a bunch of fun fights. That one's kind of coming together. But big fight at the top. First thing, Alex Pereira opened as an underdog. He's now sitting even, 110-110. No people bet that down. Yeah, people give Magomed more credit than he's deserved in the wrestling, although he does have that in his toolbox. A majority of his fights are striking. I think that's going to be a majority stand-up battle unless he, can find his way to Alex Pereira, but easier said than done. People have tried it. It has not been as easy as it looks. Once he gets taken down, that is a problem, but you even saw it with Yuri in their first fight. Yuri shot for a takedown, got stuck into a double. What did Alex do? Fucking down elbows that ended up knocking him out. So easier said than done. Should be very exciting. But that's really all I got for you today. That's really all I got. Anything else in my notes that I'm missing? No, that's what I got for you. Thank you for stopping by. Again, we got UFC Saudi Arabia. That's happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. is the start time, 2 p.m. main card start time. 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Who gives a shit? You look it up. I'm in Central Standard Time. You find your own damn time. And yeah, today in combat, peace, love, happiness. See you on the flip side, player.